A dark figure moves silently along a sandy beach on August 7th, 2020. The beach is silent, except for gentle waves lapping against something massive, something that shouldn't be there. The beam of a flashlight cuts through the darkness, revealing a colossal silhouette jutting from the surf. 240 feet of strange metal construction, neither ship nor aircraft. Protrusions sit unnaturally high on its hull, wings perhaps. 6 enormous tubes, each larger than a man, line its spine. Wading through thigh-deep water, the intruder approaches the behemoth. A single security guard sleeps inside the entrance. Generator noise masks careful footsteps. The shadowy figure documents everything. Sophisticated radar arrays, missile guidance systems, and control stations with worn Cyrillic markings. What intelligence agencies spent decades trying to achieve, urban explorer Lana Sator accomplished with a camera and a $150 flight. A new weapons system. For over 4 decades, the United States and Soviet Union engaged in a shadowy technological arms race, where innovations were hidden behind layers of classification and secrecy. While spy planes and nuclear missiles captured public attention, military engineers on both sides worked feverishly on stranger, more experimental weapons that might provide the decisive edge in case of conflict. The Soviets, in particular, pursued unconventional approaches to counter American naval dominance. By the 1960s, U.S. aircraft carrier groups projected overwhelming power across the world's oceans. These floating airfields, surrounded by protective rings of destroyers and cruisers, seemed almost invulnerable. Any conventional attack would be detected long before it could threaten these massive vessels. Soviet military planners faced a daunting challenge: how to neutralize these carrier groups before they could launch devastating airstrikes against the homeland. Submarines were one answer, but they were too slow to reliably intercept fast-moving carrier groups. Bombers could deliver anti-ship missiles, but would likely be shot down by carrier-based fighters long before reaching their targets. What the Soviet Union needed was something entirely new: a weapon system that could approach undetected, strike with overwhelming force, and retreat before defensive systems could respond. This urgent military need would drive one of the most unusual vehicles ever conceived. The Caspian Sea Monster. Behind this odd invention stood a brilliant naval engineer named Rostislav Alexeyev. In the 1950s, while designing hydrofoil boats for the Soviet Navy, Alexeyev became fascinated by a peculiar aerodynamic phenomenon. He observed that aircraft experienced increased lift and efficiency when flying very close to a surface, particularly water. Nature had already discovered this. Seabirds use it when skimming just above the ocean's surface. What if, he wondered, a vehicle could be designed to deliberately exploit this effect? With backing from Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev, Alexeyev established a secret design bureau on the Volga River. There, far from prying eyes, he began building experimental craft that were neither conventional ships nor aircraft. These vehicles were designed to harness what scientists called ground effect, the cushion of high-pressure air that forms beneath wings when flying just meters above a surface. He called them Acronoplans, literally screen gliders in Russian. By 1966, Alexeyev had created the KM, which stood for Korabye Maquette, meaning ship prototype. At 302 feet long and weighing 544 tons, it was the largest aircraft in the world. So secretive was this project that the vessel was tested only at night, covered in camouflage. Nonetheless, American intelligence satellites eventually spotted this behemoth during testing. Baffled by its enormous size and unusual configuration, the CIA dubbed it the Caspian Sea Monster. Western analysts could only speculate about its true capabilities and purpose as it raced across the Caspian, its speeds approaching 270 miles per hour, while skimming between just 16 and 33 feet above the waves. For nearly 15 years, this experimental craft underwent testing until a pilot error in 1980 resulted in a crash and its eventual sinking. But by then, Alexeyev and his team had already begun work on a weaponized version designed specifically to hunt and destroy American aircraft carriers. The Lun. The culmination of Alexeyev's vision was the Lun class. Built in 1987, the Lun represented the pinnacle of Soviet Acronoplan technology. At 240 feet long, with a wingspan of 144 feet, it was slightly smaller than the KM, but far more lethal. 8 powerful NK-87 turbofans mounted on canards near the bow, generated 28,600 pounds of thrust each, enough to propel the 380-ton craft to speeds of 340 miles per hour. The vessel's most distinctive features were the 6 missile tubes arranged along its spine. These housed P-270 Muskeet anti-ship missiles, known to NATO as the SSN-22 Sunburn. These sea-skimming missiles could streak toward their targets at 3 times the speed of sound, carrying either conventional or nuclear warheads. Sophisticated guidance systems housed in radomes at the craft's nose and tail could track multiple targets simultaneously. The Soviet military strategy was clear. The chronoplans would approach American carrier groups at high speed, launch their missiles from beyond defensive perimeters, then retreat before fighter aircraft could intercept them. A formation of just 3 Lunds could unleash 18 missiles simultaneously, enough to overwhelm the defenses of even the most protected naval task force. Despite the terrifying effectiveness of this strategy, history intervened before the Lund could be mass-produced. Only one was ever completed before the Soviet Union's economic troubles and collapse brought the ambitious program to a halt. This lone warrior, designated MD-160, would serve with the Soviet and later Russian navies until the late 1990s, when it was retired. The final journey. For over 2 decades, the MD-160 sat idle at Kaspiysk on the Caspian Sea, its once cutting-edge systems slowly deteriorating in the salt air. But in 2020, Russian authorities made a surprising decision. Rather than scrapping this one-of-a-kind vessel, they would preserve it as the centerpiece of a new Patriot Park military museum in Derbent, a historic city around 60 miles down the coast. On July 31st, 2020, the massive Acronoplan began its final voyage. A complex operation involving 3 tugboats, 2 escort vessels, and an array of specially designed rubber pontoons were assembled to move the 380-ton behemoth. Engineers estimated the journey would take approximately 14 hours to cover the coastal route. As the unusual flotilla made its way southward, it drew attention from locals who had never seen this classified military asset up close. Just short of its destination, something went disastrously wrong with the towing operation. The Acronoplan broke free and drifted into shallow water near the shore. Attempts to pull the stranded craft back into deeper water proved futile. The MD-160 was now firmly beached in the surf zone, waves lapping against its hull as it settled deeper into the sandy bottom with each passing day. Reports soon emerged that the vessel was taking on water, raising fears that this unique piece of military history might be lost forever. Local officials scrambled to develop a recovery plan, but the Acronoplan's enormous weight and awkward position made conventional salvage methods impractical. Meanwhile, the unplanned stranding created an unexpected phenomenon. Word spread quickly about the mysterious Soviet craft beached near Derbent. Soon, tourists and locals were wading out to the Acronoplan, climbing onto its wings and posing for photographs with the stranded giant. Exploring the Acronoplan. This accidental tourist attraction drew Lana Sator to Derbent less than a week later, as a prominent Russian urban explorer, part of a global subculture dedicated to documenting abandoned man-made structures. Sator had built a reputation for accessing forgotten Soviet-era facilities, from abandoned radar stations to decommissioned factories. When news broke of the stranded Acronoplan, she immediately booked a $150 flight from Moscow to document this rare military relic before authorities could secure it. Arriving in Derbent, Sator carefully planned her approach. At approximately 1 a.m. on August 7th, she and a companion stuffed their cameras into waterproof bags and made their way along the moonlit coastline. Wading through thigh-deep water, they approached the enormous silhouette looming in the darkness. After climbing aboard, they discovered the vessel was partially powered. Generators hummed loudly, powering interior lights. It was this same generator noise that allowed them to slip past a sleeping security guard stationed inside the entrance. For nearly 2 hours, the pair explored the Acronoplan's interior, photographing the cockpit, missile guidance systems, and radar operator stations. Sator noted that some compartments were cluttered with food wrappers from workers preparing the vessel for eventual display. After thoroughly documenting the craft's interior, they again passed the still sleeping guard and returned to shore. Sator's photographs, published online, circulated worldwide, offering unprecedented access to a Soviet military secret hidden for decades. Her nighttime adventure preserved a unique moment in the Acronoplan's journey between its military service and museum afterlife. For months after Seder's visit, the MD-160 remained in limbo, partially submerged in the surf, as officials debated how to proceed. Defense experts expressed concern that this one-of-a-kind historical artifact might break apart under the constant assault of waves and saltwater. In December 2020, after nearly 5 months of exposure to the elements, a successful recovery operation finally hauled the Acronoplan onto dry land. Using heavy equipment and careful planning, workers extracted the massive craft from its sandy trap, pulling it completely ashore, with its tail end roughly 100 feet from the water's edge. Today, the MD-160 awaits its transformation into a proper museum exhibit as part of Dervent's Patriot Park. Though weathered by its unexpected beach sojourn, it remains the world's only surviving example of a military Acronoplan. While the Soviet Union's mighty weapon never fired a shot in anger, its legacy lives on in renewed interest in ground effect technology. Modern designers from Singapore to the United States are revisiting the Acronoplan concept for civilian applications. Companies like Singapore's Widget Works and America's Regent are developing passenger-carrying ground effect vehicles for coastal transportation, promising the speed of aircraft with greater efficiency and lower costs. The strange hybrid craft, once designed to sink American aircraft carriers, may yet find new purpose in peaceful applications, ferrying passengers between coastal cities or delivering cargo across open water. From Cold War monster to beach curiosity to historical artifact, the journey of the last Acronoplan reveals how even the most fearsome weapons can be transformed by time, circumstance, and human ingenuity.